Welcome to this Grandma's Life podcast. I'm your host, theciaellis. Get ready to laugh, learn, and grow with me as we explore growing old in an ever changing world. One of the good things about growing old is people judge you less when you say sometimes outrageous things. I'm getting older, and I've had a fascinating life. I also have my opinions. You may not agree with those opinions, and I may not care. Even now, I'm passionate about many things. I love to learn. I love quotes. I love my animals on the farm, and I care about my country. Join me as we explore loving life, even after we age. Today's December 16, 2024, and this is episode 69, My Word of the Year. In this episode, we're going to discuss the concept of the word of the year, why I now participate in it, my word for this coming year, and why I chose it. But first, farm happenings. And there are a mess of farm happenings. And I'm kind of bummed about this because this is my second time recording this because, you pause it sometimes. And then apparently I didn't unpause it and I thought I had, and I do not know where I left off and I haven't had to start over. So we're starting over. All right. I believe Mackenzie has chosen the college she wants to go to this next year. And so she's trying to get things worked where she can get the signing done because she wants to play softball with this. They've offered her a scholarship through there. Not a full ride or anything like that, but this is what she wants. And so that's what we're going to do. I've had some more predator issues. I have found feathers of a barred rock hen and a breast hen, BRESSE hen. And I did have a rooster that was limping badly, and I separated him for a while, but he wasn't getting any better, and he was actually struggling more. So I went ahead and dispatched him and ended up putting him in with the pigs to um, be eaten. We did Dickens on the Boulevard. That's kind of a really cool thing that happens there in Claremore. Even though the town was founded in, I believe it was 1908, for some reason somebody decided that Dickens on the Border Boulevard was a good thing to do, and it was. And that's from the 1880s. But you know what? That's okay. We could have a good time. Several people dress up. I used to dress up and participate in it, and participate in some of the skits in some of the upper buildings because some of them were boarding houses and stuff that were in back in the day. And I don't know, there's a lot of history to this town. It was really cool to be able to participate and do skits in some of those places. And one year I even got to do the tour, lead a tour of people who wanted to see some of these upper buildings in the downtown area. But a lot of the buildings, they've either been gotten, the upstairs has either gotten where it's too dangerous because the flooring has gotten weakened or something, or if they're still good, they've actually made them into something else, like apartments, and I think one of them turned into a yoga room and stuff. But even when they're preparing it, like there was one wall that as they were stripping it to it was a rock wall, and they were stripping it to um make it nicer for the particular building they want to do. They found a Coca-Cola sign that was painted on the side of it that was actually went all the way from the bottom floor to the top floor. And I believe at one time that particular wall was an exterior wall, and they put another building right on top of it. There's a lot of cool history. I enjoyed being part of it, but because they're no longer doing the tours of those upper buildings, they've kind of lost a lot of its fun. And they still had some things that you could participate in. I'm glad we went, but I was disappointed that we didn't get to see some of the upper rooms again and learn some more about the history. Thomas has gotten a couple of deer, and we've got those processed and put into the freezer. Tom does most of the processing. I usually just do the packaging on it. And we had a nice Thanksgiving at his cousin's house. All the different family ages and stuff, and it's just nice to go over there. I'm still working on bathroom trim. Guys, I stink at that stuff so bad, especially with one part I'm trying to do around a window, and I just not smart enough to figure out how to cut it. I can, I can't envision it. I just can't see it to cut it properly. And I can measure. I know how to measure. I know how to cut. I can't figure out how to cut to make it where it fits in this window. So I've had to walk away from that for a few days, and I'll try to get back to it as soon as I can because I want to finish it. I want to get on with other things I've got to get done. Tom did work on the skirting on the north end of the house again. I think this is about the fifth time that we've had to put it back up. It's just too much of a gap, like 44 inches from the floor to the ground for vinyl skirting, and we've built frames behind it. We've done a lot of screwing and stuff, and he's done some more. And if this doesn't hold, and it might not, you never know, because every time we do a repair, we think this has got to hold, this has got to work. And if not, we may have to go to doing metal and shoving it deep into the ground and then screwing it, and it won't match the rest of the skirting. But you know, it's wintertime. We get below freezing, and then in January and February we stay below freezing every once in a while. So I don't, and plus the heating bill, goodness me. So yeah, Tom worked on that while I canned some jalapenos. He has a cousin that is really good gardener, and he was still having some jalapenos, so I canned some up after that. We went to the Claremore Christmas parade. I don't. It's usually too cold, and it's not very enjoyable to me. But Kinsey was marching in it with the company that she works for, and if wherever Kinsey is, that's where I want to be too. And just to support her. So it was fun to watch her, and I mean, she marched. That's what she did. But it was still fun to see her. And I've got some footage. I got some interesting footage too, some from one of my videos, and like there was a camel that was not happy about being in the parade. So in fact, I was kind of getting nervous. I was afraid he was going to come after me and tromp me, but he did not. We had a second Thanksgiving at my son Tony's house. He had gone to his father's house for Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving Day, and then the next weekend after that, he hosted Thanksgiving at their house, his wife house, and her parents were there also. So it was nice too to have two Thanksgiving. Elsie, my puppy, is missing, and we've looked for her. We've uh, driven around looking for her and stuff. We even looked across the road to see if there was if she had been caught. There was a guy that traps over there, and I've looked over there, and we didn't see her in any traps. And so I don't know where she is. She was there in the morning, but then I got to looking for her off and on throughout the day and did not see her. But while the other two dogs were there, and that night I thought, well, I'll go into the Foil community page. And it's a god awful page. That sounds terrible to say, I guess, that way, but it's not. There's a lot of really negative people who don't have anything better to do with their life except for insult each other. But it's also a place where you can get information if you need to, too. So I went on there, and immediately two posts had said that their dogs were missing, and somebody else had said that there's pretty sure that there's a thief in the area and was stealing dogs because there were several dogs missing. And I thought, Elsie is very submissive, very sweet, very kind. I'm sure that there's a thief that came up and talked her into coming up to the car, and they jumped out and grabbed her, and she's probably gone. It's been several days, a couple of weeks even now, I guess, week or so, and she's been gone. My heart hurts over it. I pray she's happy, because when you lose, especially puppies, well, any dog, when they come up missing, you just always envision them dead on the side of the road or just something. Your brain goes to places you don't want to go. So if she's been stolen, I pray that she's been found a better home and is happy there, and is not lying dead on the side of the road somewhere. So I miss my Elsie dog, but I guess that's life in the country, unfortunately. We had a Sunday school party, the Christmas party. Those are always really nice, and I enjoy doing that. We got a gift from one of the ladies in our class, and it was such a sweet gift. She had gotten on Facebook and taken a picture of it off of when Kinsey's senior night at the softball game, and it had a picture of Tom and I flanking Kinsey while she's in her uniform, and she made put that in a frame for us, and it's just so nice, and I really appreciate that, because even when I'm like so many other people, I have pictures, but they're all digital, and so every once in a while it's just really nice to have something that's actually tangible that you can pull out and look at it, and put on a shelf and stuff. I was glad for that picture. About 3.5 years ago, I bought a wood stove. I hauled it home, and it's been sitting in the front yard for the last 3.5 years. And I was really kind of wanting getting it installed during the summertime when it's warm and you don't have to worry about it. that Thomas come across another wood stove that he wanted, and he commissioned my son Tony to lay tile. So Tony came over Saturday and Sunday some to lay down some hardy board for the floor and on the back wall. So and then he laid some tile on that. He's still working on the tile part of it because you know how it is. Uh, you got to lay it and then you got to do the grouting. So he did the mortar part, most of the mortar, and now waiting for it to dry so he can do the grouting and everything. Of course, he has a job and a family and everything too. So we're trying to get that done. I'm a little bit apprehensive about that because it is wintertime. It is cold right now. And yeah, we're getting the tile part of it done. But when are we going to put the hole in the wall? And how long will I have a hole in the wall before I actually have a wood stove installed? I don't know. We'll find out. I do need to have a little more faith about it, I guess. I don't know. We had a Christmas parade in Foyle too. Now this one was fun. So it's a much smaller town, much smaller parade, but we got a float, we decorated it, and Tom got a 1941 tractor to pull it. And this is for Foyle Baptist Church. We had a really good time riding in it, and it was really cool because I was going to try to walk it, and my daughter-in-law's mother came and brought me Ivy, the 3-year-old. She bought me Ivy so that at the beginning of the trail, not trail, but you know what I'm saying, the parade route, and then she drove up to the end of the parade route and waited for us while we got to ride. Ivy got to ride in my lap and throw candy. She wasn't. It was kind of funny because I said, all right, Ivy, do you want to throw some candy? And then she looked at me like throw candy. Like, why would you throw candy? But she was game for it. We sat in the lap when the parade started. There were some people, and I said, "Okay, throw the candy." And she threw it down on the bottom. Throw it down, the first handful way down into the bottom of the trailer. And I'm going, no, throw it out there to the people. And she was throwing it straight down, and it was getting ran over instead of getting to the people. So we kind of laid off on the throwing the candy. And we just watched everybody else throw candy. But it was so neat. I got to have Ivy sitting in my lap while we were on the parade, and it was just a lot of fun. Beethoven came up missing Sunday morning. And Tom was upset about that because this is the second dog in a week that we've lost. And it wasn't too long after that when he came in that the guy who does the trapping across the road, he goes, I think I got one of your dogs, except he's a lot bigger than I am and he doesn't know me. And I'd appreciate if somebody would come and help me get him unloaded, get him out of the trap. So Tom went over there, and apparently it was a pretty hefty trap. It doesn't have teeth. It's straight edge and stuff. But Beethoven apparently had been there all night, and his foot was swollen, and he was really upset. And Tom got upset too, and he was kind of chewing on the guy. We were having such big heavy traps for beaver, and I had to remind Tom that the dogs were not on our property, and that's our fault. And he wasn't happy with me for that one. But that is the truth. The guy has permission to do trapping over there, and we do not have permission for our dogs to be on that property. So that's kind of our problem. Um, so Beethoven, his foot is good. He's doing better today. His foot's still swollen. He's putting some weight on it again, a little bit, and here and there. He was distraught. He had to be held, had to be petted. Big 140-pound dog. But I tried to give him as much loving as I could, and he's doing better. We had our Christmas program at our church last night. It was so much fun. I actually sang a solo. I don't like to sing solos because I love to sing, and I sing loud and I sing strong. But when I'm by myself, I get nervous and my voice gets tight, my throat does, and I don't sound very good. But I decided to brave it again, and it went pretty good this time. So I was grateful for that. I also got to read the Christmas story while the kids did their part. That is so cute. When you have, I think we had about 8 kids all dressed up in costume. We had, the girl for dressed up as Mary, and we had Joseph with a fake beard. And I think it was made of, I don't know what it was made of, rubber or something. I don't know what it was made of. But the kids are adorable. I love those programs. So while they're doing their bit on being around the manger and stuff, I got to read the Christmas story, and I loved doing it, and I enjoy being there. And then I'm also part of the quote unquote choir. There's like 8 of us in the choir too. We got to sing a couple songs for that, so that was nice. I enjoyed it. All right, that's all going on for the happenings. Now we can move on to something else. What I'm listening to is The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. That is a particularly good book. This is my second listening on it, and I'm actually seriously considering buying the hard book for it so that I can actually read it and highlight it and do it for my other podcast books highlighted, and because there's a lot of really good information in it. And I'm also listening to Heretics of Doom by Frank Herbert. I'm still my first listening with that and trying to debate whether I will listen to it a second time. Because a lot of times, even with the fictional books, I read them, I hear them a second time so I can catch what I missed in a first hearing. And but I'm just not this one's not capturing my attention, so I'm not sure yet. What I'm actually reading is Spud's Spam and Eating for Victory: Rationing in the Second World War by Catherine Knight. And that's just a book I'm reading on the side to learn about how they dealt with World War II. Right now I'm in this part where they're taking what they've learned in rationing from World War One in Europe. This is in Europe, and how they apply what they learned to help them to keep people fed in World War II. So it's been a pretty interesting read right now. I'm learning things, and I'm enjoying that. I'm about to start tonight The Unsinkable Mrs. Brown by Carolyn Bancroft. It's a biography, and so I'm kind of looking forward to getting started on that. And I just finished Devoted by Dean Koontz. And if you know me at all, you know I love my Dean Koontz book. And this book did not disappoint. All right, my quote of the week: challenges are what makes life interesting. Overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. This is by Joshua J. Marine. And I have to admit, this is the second time I've done the podcast, and I love to look up and learn something about the people who have done a quote. And this one was no help. Uh, Nothing on Wikipedia. Sometimes you can go onto websites, particular websites, but then they want you to log in or become members or and pay and stuff. It's like, really, just tell me a little bit about the dude, or tell me about a little bit about it. But only thing it just says is, yep, he was and it's kind of debatable whether Marine was his last name or if he is a Marine. I don't know. I was having trouble telling. But basically, it said that he's famous for this particular quote: challenges are what makes life interesting. Overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. All right. My main subject, the word of the year. The concept of the word of the year. Uh, I learned about the word of the year from Nicole Sauce of Living Free in Tennessee podcast. And she had learned of the concept from Jenny Hill, a listener and a friend of hers, and now someone I consider a friend. I met Jenny at a workshop in Nicole's place a couple of years ago, and we communicate with each other regularly through text and things like that. And naming your word of the year is an exercise that has you narrowing your focus on what you want to accomplish or focus on in the coming year. To come up with this word takes time and introspection. And I think I'd heard, apparently, this is kind of catched on in a lot of places. And I believe I'd seen somewhere that even Megan Kelly is doing something with a word of the year, too. So it's cool because it is a pretty interesting concept. Because now you're thinking ahead. What are your goals for the coming year? What has changed in your life this past year? What is an area you want to excel in, improve on, focus on? Last year, Nicole was struggling to do all the things that she had put on her plate and had chosen Hone, Hone, for her word. Hone reminded her to narrow her focus on very specific things that will facilitate her getting to particular goals that she has set in her life, and not to be distracted by the shiny objects that inevitably pop up. I had chosen prosper a couple of years ago, but I let the word slip from my mind in my daily life, and I did not do what it took to prosper. In other words, I chose the word and went on about my life. And I did not put it where I could see that word every day and dwell on the word and think about why I chose that word and what I wanted to accomplish with it. So when you do choose a word, you want to put it out there where you can see it and think about it and focus on it on regular basis so you don't lose track. A word I had chosen a few years ago, thrive, was a very good word that I was able to focus on at that time. It helped me to take my mind off the stresses I was under at the time. And it was the reason I had come up with the phrase, live until you die. This is a phrase that I have loved and need to put back into my videos and podcasts. Frequently, when I learn of a concept that is new to me, I will listen, but I can easily shrug it off. I convince myself that I am too busy to add even one more thing into my life. As I continued to listen to those implementing this idea and how it affected their choices in their lives, I then decided to spend time to come up with my own word. For some of us, introspection is more difficult than we want to admit. It's kind of like reading your own label while still inside the jar. In other words, you have to ask yourself the hard questions. Who am I really? What is important to me? How important is it? These questions have to be answered while you decide what it is that you want to do, accomplish, or conquer in the coming year. Another concept that many of these people discovered as they focused on the word that they had chosen is that there's frequently a dark side to the word. For example, if you choose grow, like one of the words that Nicole had chosen a few years ago, she had wanted to grow her coffee business, still do consulting, grow her podcast along with many other goals, including running a homestead. She soon became so busy in attempting to accomplish all these things in pursuit of her word, she became exhausted and then sick. Hone, the word that she set it on the next year, had her actually spending the mental energy to truly focus on what would take for her to reach her goals that she had set. Instead of throwing the spaghetti on the wall to see what would stick, she focused only on what she could get would get her closer to her goals to the best of her ability. Sometimes a word chooses you. I spent time in introspection to come up with my own word this year, but only one word kept persistently coming into my focus. And I wasn't thrilled that it was my word, but finally came to realize that it really was the best word for me. So instead of words like live, prosper, thrive, or succeed, my word for 2025 is transition. As you can imagine, the word could easily conjure up the desire to attempt to change my body from female to male. And although the work I do frequently is generally attributed to men, I like being a woman and I plan to stay that way. But I have gone through a lot of transitions in my life. I mean, when I was growing up, we moved every 2 years. When I graduated, I got married and moved to Alaska. I then moved to Texas and then California with a couple of spouse changes along the way. A couple of those moves necessitated leaving most of my worldly goods behind. When we got custody of my granddaughter Kinsey, she was 11 years old. As tough as that girl is, she still came from a rough situation and desperately needed me to be the rock, the loving grandmother, the nurturer, the trustworthy person that she could possibly rely on. At the same time, my husband had sunk into bipolar depression, and we were living in a camper on 40 acres, and the only running water was at the spigot down by the vineyard. Lots of transitions, lots of reasons to be able to pivot. I'm sure all of you have had your own transitions. Kinsey now is 18 years old and a senior in high school. She is preparing to go to a college about 3.5 hours away from here and plans to play softball at this college. Like all mothers, I love my boys. Life was not always easy for them, as I spent a considerable amount of time being a single mother, working sometimes 80 and 90 hours a week to keep a roof over our head and food on the table. Honestly, it's hard to be a good mother under those conditions, and they've had to pay the price for that. And Kinsey was a different story for me. I don't know anything about raising girls. I didn't for sure. And I am beyond grateful for the wonderful ladies in our church that had counseled me through some of the early rough times of Kinsey and I learning how to deal with the change in our relationship. I was not just grandma anymore. I became the nurturer enforcer, healer, and confidant. I'm learning that there are a lot of grandparents out there raising their grandchildren, and that is very sad. Regardless, I have come to love this girl like I've never loved anyone in my life. She's grown now. She's leaving for college this next year. I want her to get out into the world and learn to fly on her own. I want her to fall down and get back up again. I want her to live the life she is meant to live. I want her to be happy and follow her dreams, even if that means that is several hours away from me. Truly, I want that for her. We've come about as close as two hurt people can with trust issues. I will miss her terribly, though. This is a transition I must make. What are my plans in this transition? Well, I'm getting older. My joints hurt. I'm tired. The work I do is getting difficult for me. I've lost my desire to make my acreage into a beautiful place to live. I realize that it's just too much for me to do on my own, even when Tom is available to help. I'm looking forward to new dreams. I want to travel. I want to find a way to buy a van and turn it into a camper van. I can drive a van. I can't make a trailer to save my life. I truly believe if you put a gun to my head and told me that I had to back a trailer, I'd tell you to go ahead and shoot me. I have practiced many times to back a trailer and failed miserably. And that's why I want a van. They are not too wide, and I can get used to the height and the length. I have watched many videos on setting up a camper van, and I believe I can make the small space work for me, and maybe even my husband if he wants to go. He'd be welcome. Maybe we could watch Kinsey play softball at her college. I could visit my sister and my brother without having to interfere with their lives by being in their house. If I get tired, I can pull over. I want to travel all over the United States and parts of Canada and even Mexico. I'm tired of working hard. I want to travel. How's that for a transition? So, my question of the day is, what is your word of the year and why did you choose it? Send me an email at gmail, theciaellis@gmail.com, theciaellis @gmail.com. All right. I've talked to you before about the fold card. I really like this fold card. Okay, let's get real. Bitcoin is getting more and more um, valuable. It would have been better if you could have gotten the fold card and started investing before while it was low. But guess what? It's still, go ahead. The fold card is a prepaid debit card, and you use it to buy whatever you can set up to pay your bills. There are specific things that you can buy. You can buy pretty much anything you want with it, but if there's specific things you buy, you get extra satoshis from buying it. If you go through specific motels or specific retail outlets and stuff, it's really cool, and I use it. I set aside a certain amount every payday and it gets me with fuel and eating out and, you know, between payday groceries and stuff like that. That's the way I've got it set up. But you can set it up for so much more. And every transaction earns you a certain amount of satoshis. And it was been good for me. I won't lie. Over a year or two, just buying groceries didn't cost me anything else. And buying that stuff, I was able to put aside about extra $500 to that that I really didn't have to buy the $200 worth of stuff. $500 worth of stuff. So I don't know. It's been good. I would suggest, but if you decide you want to do a fold card, get you your own prepaid debit card and start stacking your own satoshis. Go down to the link below and use that link, and we both get a little bit for it, but it doesn't cost us anything more too. All right, where I can be found, my main thing is grandmashomestead.farm. That's my website. Grandma's Homestead YouTube channel, Farm Animal Life YouTube channel. I also have Kinsey Lackey Sports YouTube channel. I can be found on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, and Rumble under some version of Thecia Dehoff or Thecia E. I now also have Grandma's Homestead Facebook page. I put some posting on that. All right, guys. That's all I got for you today. And I want to remind you to live until you die. God bless, guys. I'll see you next time.